know that your words will be.
The world is listening.
The world is
Hello, Elliot and Amy. How are you? Amy's kind of in the dark there, but Elliot's in the bright light.
Yeah, well, I have one of these ring lights, and it only lights a small area.
Well, she could move up.
Well, no, because then I'll bump
No,
into
I
his
think it get tired. It's a little awkward.
I'm just here for moral support. He's the star of the show.
Nah.
You may need
Irv,
to turn up your microphone, Elliot, a little bit.
What's
Just
that?
make it far away compared to everybody else is talking.
How does that sound, Bob?
A little bit better compared to everybody else is talking. You're a little.
Bob's much louder. Can you lower it a little bit?
What else is new?
Hi, Ron.
Shabbat shalom all.
Shabbat shalom. Where's Paula?
She's coming. She's indisposed at the moment.
Hi, Deborah Rothman.
Should be glad you shared that, Ron.
Yeah, really. TMI, right?
Ron, it's on YouTube for all eternity now.
That's right. Everyone's going to know this.
Hi, Ruth.
Hello, Ruth.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi, Felice.
We're
Turn
streaming
off
on
your-
YouTube.
You can't unmute?
You tell us when you want us to mute up, Oko, or you'll mute us
I
up.
will. So, what's amazing is we're teaching religious school, on Zoom, and the little kids have figured out how to do this. So, 4 or 5 years old, they know where to push to get unmuted, and then they mute themselves after they finish speaking. It's kind of scary in a way.
Of course, they've lived with it all their lives, so it's not something that they have to, it's just kind of comes with it.
Well, they know how to use phones, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, starting at about a year old, they're already
it's the
using
same
phones.
thing, Rabbi.
Lori, did you get my text?
Yes, I did.
Okay, just wanted to thank you again.
You're welcome.
Hi, Sarah, welcome. Hi,
Rabbi,
Harvey.
I have trouble hearing you. Are you speaking into the microphone?
Who?
Yeah, you
Turn
got
up
soft-
your speakers a little bit, Susie.
They all
Wait,
asked me to
Who
work.
are you having trouble hearing?
I told them you were in.
You, Rabbi.
Me? You're
You
having
got
I can hear
I have trouble hearing.
No, I can hear the rabbi really well.
I can hear the rabbi and
Can
I
you
can
turn up
hear
your
Bob.
volume?
Shabbat Shalom, Bob.
You can turn up your volume.
Can you turn up your volume, Susie?
Pardon?
Can you turn up your
Hello,
volume?
everyone. Shabbat
Hi.
shalom.
Hi,
Shabbat
Paula.
shalom.
Hi, Paula. We know all about
We know
you.
where you've been.
Hi,
Hi,
Sarah.
Eileen.
Cantor Elliott.
Jacob Mendelson must be one of your fans.
No pressure, Cantor.
Jack is a very worldwide known cantor friend from New York, and I'm very honored that he's visiting us tonight.
Welcome. Hi, Joan.
Worldwide, I
Hi.
think you're
Hi,
describing
Ezra.
my torso.
Shabbat Shalom, Elliot.
Shabbat shalom.
Need to go a little bit louder, Elliot.
Shabbos.
I'm going to give it a couple minutes. Oh, my hair's
Take
gorgeous.
off
Thank
my
you very
video.
much, Thea.
Hi, Ezra.
Hi,
Elliot,
Ezra.
I don't have my phone, so you'd have to just move the microphone closer to you.
I did a sound check before with singing, so I think it's. Let me know if it doesn't work later.
Sounds
Oh,
fine
yeah,
to
it's
me right
working.
now.
It's just
It's not as loud as
a-
Bob, but then
Text
again.
Amy if it doesn't work when I actually sing.
Okay.
Thank you.
You look handsome, Elliot.
Okay, Debbie Rothman, can I ask you, are you a friend of somebody? Are you a relative? Is that Elliot, maybe, okay.
Debbie is a friend of
You're
a friend
Elliot's
from-
friend? Well,
from Brooklyn,
welcome.
New York, a singer.
All the way from New York too, whoa.
All the way from New York. It's real late there.
Yeah,
It's late.
try to stay.
Hello
awake.
to the other East Coasters here.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna be our guest speaker next week. And she's from the East Coast as well, so you look bright and like you're awake. Great. So she's gonna speak to us next week about veganism and Judaism. So that should be very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Okay.
I'm going to give it about 30 more seconds and then we're going to get started because, Jewish time, we never start exactly on time.
Good old Jewish Standard Time.
Good old Jewish Standard Time, exactly.
Well, when people always know you're going to start late, then they don't worry.
Well, I don't want to punish the people who come on time. Okay, Jordan just put Mendelssohn's
They have to get
bio
dressed,
in
they get in their
chat.
cars, they drive to the temple, they come into the sanctuary. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
I know. But this way we get to meet, chat a little bit and say hi to each other. And that's a good thing, right?
Yep.
By the way, I
Okay,
haven't looked
so,
at, I haven't, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
I haven't looked at the news for 2 hours. I wonder what crazy things have happened.
Oh, let's
Yeah,
have
right.
a nice break for
Yay.
you here. Okay, Jordan, my husband is very impressed with your bio, Jack. Wherever you
I might.
went off to in my
okay.
screen, I don't see you
Just
anymore.
a
But
minute.
anyway, oh, there's Rosalie. Okay,
Okay.
we're gonna get started. So if you don't mind muting yourselves.
I'm in front of the television. No,
Anybody
I'm
need-
in front of the computer at the temple.
Okay, where is Sandy? I'm gonna need to
I just,
mute her.
no, I just took my.
I hear some Sandy. Okay, I'm muting her. Okay, all right. Okay, I think everybody's muted. So Shabbat Shalom. Really nice to have you here tonight. And we're very happy to have Elliot Levine as our guest cantor, who's also a congregant, and he's a guest periodically. So we're very lucky. And we're even being graced by the presence of Cantor Bob, even though it's not his evening. So take it away. We're starting with the Torah portion of Bereshit, right? I'm sorry.
You said take it away?
Yeah. I'm waiting for Christine to share her screen. We're starting with the Torah portion of Bereshit. And so Elliot found some songs that have to do with Bereshit, which means in the beginning.
This is a song by Gordon Lustig and Hine Tov Ma'od. Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa, והנה טוב מאוד. Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa, והנה טוב מאוד. Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa, והנה טוב מאוד. Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa, והנה טוב מאוד. There was evening, there was morning, there was evening, there was morning. Vahi erev, vahi boker, tov meod. There was evening, there was morning. Vahi erev, vahi boker, tov meod. והאלוהים את כל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. והיה אלוהים את כל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד.
That was really beautiful. And Susie Kopel is going to light our candles for us. So Susie, we're going to spotlight you so everybody can see you.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen. Thank
Amen.
you very much. And Elliot is going to lead us in the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu,
ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית. כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen.
Whoa, nice.
Red wine.
Chaim. So as you know, last week we completed the cycle of Torah readings, and we began with Bereshit, which is the beginning of the book of Genesis. And today our Torah portion is Bereshit. We start all over again, new beginnings, just like going through the high holidays. We begin anew, new resolutions, new ideas about how we want to live our lives. I'm going to focus tonight on the sixth day of creation, the day when human beings were created. Now, when God creates light and darkness, land and water, vegetation, living creatures, each day, God looks at God's work and declares it good. But on the day the human being is created, God calls this creation very good.
How much?
I would say this is a great way to start our Jewish New Year, by considering humanity to be very good. Certainly, we've all been given a fresh start and have been cleansed by our experience during the high holidays. So let us think of ourselves, at least for now, as very good. And we continue with Bereshit by Shirona.
בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ, והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני להום, ורוח אלוהים מרחפת, מרחפת, מרחפת על פני המים. ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור ויהי אור, וירא אלוהים את האור כי טוב, ויבדיל אלוהים בין האור ובין החושך. ורוח אלוהים מרחפת, מרחפת, מרחפת על פני המים. ויקרא אלוהים לעם ולחושך קרא לילה ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום אחד. מרחפת על פני המים. פני המים.
So of course, there is another perspective on humanity. Our Torah portion tells us that God says, let us make the human being in our image. The question, of course, is, to whom is God speaking? Why does God say we and our in the plural? The rabbis of our tradition come up with an interesting answer. Here's a midrash they created. When the time came for the Holy Blessed One to make the first human being, the ministering angels made themselves into competing councils. Some of them said, don't create humans, and the others said, create them. The angel of kindness said, create them, for they will do acts of loving kindness. Then the angel of truth said, do not create them, for they will be full of lies. The angel of righteousness said, create them, for they will establish justice. The angel of peace said, do not create them, for they will be in constant strife. What did the Blessed Holy One do but grab up truth and hurl it to the earth? Whereupon the ministering angel said before the Holy One, ruler of all worlds, what have you done? Why have you so chastised the chief of your court? Let truth arise again from the earth. So what does it mean that truth was thrown to the ground? One of the great Jewish mystics, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, explains that pure truth is contradictory to human nature. But when truth is thrown to the ground, it splits into many shards, which are dispersed throughout the world. These are sparks of truth embedded in each and every human being. Our role is to collect these sparks of truth and connect them until the entire truth arises from the earth. So that's our job, to collect and connect truth. The Chatzi Kaddish is next.
Here we go.
יתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה, פלמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. ישמע רבו מברך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי בקודשו בריחו. ואלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן.
And we continue with the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevarach, 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 Baruch Adonai, Hamevarach, Hamevarach, Le'olam. 'Cause 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 'cause
Muted.
You're muted.
Yes, I am. Like I said, that's my motto for 2020. You are muted. Okay. So Ruth Bryn is a poet, and she has written a poem about creation. When the divine word ended chaos and nothingness, when God rolled away the darkness from the light, that was the first moment of creation. When Adam opened his eyes and beheld earth and heaven, that was a moment of creation, as real as the first. For the sun is not bright without an eye to see. The waves of the sea cannot crash and roar without an ear to listen. And unless life marks off the segments, time is a dimension without measure. Though we are finite, God created us both free and conscious, able to share in the power of creation. Every moment that we behold anew the work of God, the jewels of dew on morning grass, the smile lighting the face of a beloved child, every moment that we work for good is a moment of creation. Lord God, renew in us, in every one, the bright mornings of Adam and Eve. Let each dawn rise fresh with hope, as it was in the beginning. Inspire us to create what is good. Quicken our delight in all that you create. Ahavat Olam, the gift of Torah out of love.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו למדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגן יומם ולילה.
We continue with the Shema, the declaration of God's oneness.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. 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 ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
And we continue with the Ve'ahavta, which our lovely Melamedet is going to lead us in.
Okay.
Carolyn.
Oops.
Yeah, you're fine.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Everybody join me. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Thank you, Carol Lee. Nice job.
Thank you. I have to turn it off.
So we find out in Bereshit, in the beginning, that God created humankind in God's image. The image of God, God created humankind. Now, what exactly does it mean to be created in God's image? Our 11th century French commentator Rashi says that it's the fact that we're given the ability to understand and to reason. The 15th and 16th century Italian commentator Saforno says that it's that we have access to spiritual connection. The 18th century Moroccan Kabbalists, so mystical Jew and sage, or HaChaim, says that we're endowed with the capacity both for justice and for mercy. Rav Abraham Isaac Cook, the first chief rabbi of British Mandate Palestine, says that we were given free will. All these are true, but most importantly, we must never forget that all of us have a spark of holiness within us. Therefore, just as we experience liberation at the Sea of Reeds, so too we must fight for everyone's liberation. Mi chamocha.
Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai, mi chamocha chaneda b'kodesh, nor tehilot, osef ele, malchutcha ra'ov anecha, bokeyam lifnei Moshe, malchutcha ra'ov anecha, בוקיים לפני משה, זה לי, אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם לעולם ועד. ידידי די 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 ידידי די די, ידידי די 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 די
So as you probably know by now, the rabbis of our tradition notice every single little grammatical or orthographic change or error or seeming error in our Torah. So in relation to the sixth day of creation, They note that the verse says there was evening, there was morning, the sixth day. Nothing strange about that, you might say. Well, on the other days, the verses say there was evening, there was morning, a third day, a fourth day, a fifth day. Notice the difference? Nothing much, only that the sixth day, instead of saying a sixth day, it says the sixth day. Aha, that must mean something, right? So the Talmudic sage Resh Lakish asks what the meaning of this might be. And he responds by saying the sixth day. God is referring to the sixth day of the Hebrew month of Sivan, which happens to be the day that we traditionally associate with the giving of the Torah. So he understands the verse is saying there was evening and there was morning only because of the sixth day of Sivan, the date the Torah was given at Sinai. In other words, God is saying, if Israel accepts the Torah, you will continue to exist. If not, I will turn you back to primordial emptiness and void. So in essence, Reish Lakish is interpreting that one "the" to indicate that God created the world only for the sake of Torah. And of course, Torah tells us, especially in our first Torah portion, to honor the Sabbath, Yismechu. Honoring.
ישמחו במלאכותיך, שמרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שמרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מקדשי שבי שבת, כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שמרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. וישבי רצית בו בקדש שבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שמרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שמרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שמרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שמרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
We continue with the tefillah.
Adonai sefati tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagedol Hagibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'choneh HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור אלוהי אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעברות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We take a moment to pray silently.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, tova u'bracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. כולנו כאחד באור פניך, כי באור פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום, שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, ואת כהנים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום, שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elliot.
Welcome.
I'm going to take a moment right now to think of those in need of healing, whether of body, of mind, or of spirit. We think of congregants and friends and family of congregants: Jonathan Davidson, Brenda Oppenheim, Kenny Hayes, Randy Rubin, Ben Henderson, Rabbi Steve Robbins, Gloria Mangus, Steve Lux, David Kurland, Robin Kurland, Sandy Schneider, Jan Judman, Emily Pasquarelli, Julie Lapidus, Irv Richards, Pamela Mangus, Barbara Brandt, Johnny Sikat, Aharon Pincus, Leah Bat Moshe Barut, Harold Johnson. And if you'd like to add names, please do so either by unmuting or by putting them in the chat, and I will read them. Robert Doctor, Ron Jones, Ruth and Sandra Landis, Rochelle Cooper, Paul Greco Sr., Diana Anderson, Alex Trebek, Kim Coe, Jack Howard, Jesus Lopez, Lucy Ramarex, Raul Camacho, Janet Garole, Amy Morton, Betty Walton, Roberta Abrams. Anyone else? So please join us in the prayer for healing, the Misha Berach.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So I am going to do something a bit different tonight. And I think Ezra may be happy with what I'm going to do, because as you know, I normally, if I give any kind of talk about something to do with social justice, I'm coming at it from more of a liberal point of view. But tonight I'm going to read part of a piece that was written by Barry Weiss in Tablet magazine. I've edited down because it's fairly long. As you may know, Barry Weiss was an op-ed writer for the New York Times, and she left there. I don't think she considers herself particularly right-wing or anything like that, but she felt that she was being bullied by other reporters and by other staff members, and that if she didn't toe the sort of politically correct line, she was criticized and bullied, and so she left. And she's known for writing a book about anti-Semitism, and she just published a piece a couple days ago in Tablet magazine, and it's called Stopping Shocked. And the idea is that things that are happening these days, we shouldn't be shocked about. So the thing that she refers to initially is the outrage in the Jewish community because she says American Jews were dumbfounded by this, and she says it should have been predictable. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a progressive superstar, pulled out of an event honoring Yitzhak Rabin. I don't know if any of you heard about that, but she was supposed to be part of that ceremony. And Rabin, of course, was considered, let's say, by Bill Clinton as a martyr for his nation's peace. And of course, we know that he won the Nobel Peace Prize and did a lot to try to make peace with the Palestinians, and then was murdered for that. But in his younger days, he was in the army, and he probably killed some Palestinians, and therefore it didn't look right for a progressive person to be involved. She says many Jews were shocked. If Rabin, the symbol of progressive Zionism, is out of bounds, are any Israelis acceptable? What about the 95% of Jews who support the Jewish state? Why would the Congresswoman from the Bronx, representing the political party to which upwards of 70% of American Jews have been consistently loyal, possibly do such a thing? And so she first suggests, well, maybe she didn't know what she was doing. Maybe she didn't understand. No, she says, no, the savvy politician had read the room and was sending a clear signal about who belongs in the new progressive coalition and who does not. So in other words, in Barry Weiss's opinion, the new progressive coalition is one where you criticize Israel and various other things, which we're going to get to. She says, did you see that the Ethical Culture Fieldston School hosted a speaker that equated Israelis with Nazis? Did you know that Brearley, which is a private girls' school in New York that actually one of my sisters went to, is now asking families to write a statement demonstrating their commitment to anti-racism? Did you see that protesters tagged a synagogue in Kenosha, which is in Wisconsin, with Free Palestine graffiti? Did you hear about the march in DC where they chanted, Israel, we know you murder children too? So it makes sense that many smart, well-intentioned people are confused, or rather, looking for someone to explain why an emerging movement that purports to advance the ideals they have always supported, fairness, justice, righting historical wrongs, feels like it is doing the opposite. And she says, let me make my purpose perfectly clear. I am here to ring the alarm. I'm here to say, do not be shocked anymore. Stop saying, can you believe? It's time to accept reality if we want to have any hope of fixing it. To understand the enormity of the change we are now living through, take a moment to understand America as the overwhelming majority of its Jews believed it was, and perhaps as we always assumed it would be. It was liberal. Not liberal in the narrow partisan sense, but liberal in the most capacious and distinctly American sense of the word. The belief that everyone is equal because everyone is created in the image of God. The belief in the sacredness of the individual over the group or the tribe. The belief that the rule of law and equality under that law is the foundation of a free society. The belief that due process and the presumption of innocence are good and that mob violence is bad. The belief that pluralism is a source of our strength, that tolerance is a reason for pride, and that liberty of thought, faith, and speech are the bedrocks of democracy. And what she's going to show is, I think, unfortunately, when you get too far to one side or the other, it becomes a doctrinaire belief system. And unless you toe the line, you are ostracized, which is how she felt she was. Crucially, this liberalism relied on the view that the Enlightenment tools of reason and scientific method might have been designed by dead white guys, but they belonged to everyone, and they were the best tools for human progress that have ever been devised. Racism was evil because it contradicted the foundations of this worldview, since it judged people not based on the content of their character, but on the color of their skin. And while America's founders were guilty of undeniable hypocrisy, their own moral failings did not invalidate their transformational project. The founding documents were not evil to the core, but magnificent, as Martin Luther King Jr. put it. America would never be perfect, but we could always strive towards building a more perfect union. No longer. This is her view. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but American liberalism is under siege. There is a new ideology vying to replace it. No one has yet decided on the name for the force that has come to unseat liberalism. At some point, it will have a formal name and one that properly describes its mixture of postmodernism, post-colonialism, identity politics, neo-Marxism, critical race theory, intersectionality, and the therapeutic mentality. The new creed's premise goes something like this. We are in a war in which the forces of justice and progress are arrayed against the forces of backwardness and oppression. And in a war, the normal rules of the game, due process, political compromise, the presumption of innocence, free speech, even reason itself must be suspended. Indeed, those rules themselves were corrupt to begin with, designed as they were by dead white males in order to uphold their own power. The beating heart of this new ideology is critical race theory. I actually feel like I'm Bill Maher reading this because that's the kind of position you would take on all of this. Critical race theory says there is no such thing as neutrality, not even in the law. Racism is no longer about individual discrimination. It is about systems that allow for disparate outcomes among racial groups. And that was kind of the premise of my sermon at Yom Kippur. If everyone doesn't finish the race at the same time, then the course must have been flawed and should be dismantled. Thus, the efforts to do away with the SAT or the admissions test for elite public schools, or the argument made recently by the New York Times' classical music critic to do away with blind auditions for orchestras. In fact, any feature of human existence that creates disparity of outcomes must be eradicated. The nuclear family, politeness, even rationality itself can be defined as inherently racist or evidence of white supremacy. The KIPP charter schools recently eliminated the phrase work hard from its famous motto, work hard, be nice, because the idea of working hard, quote, supports the illusion of meritocracy. So if this sounds like a lot of, abstract language, the idea is that, if outcomes are not equal amongst people of different races, then it's because the system is flawed and it has nothing to do with people's effort or with people's merit. It's because the system is flawed. I mean, that's the argument from this theory that she's criticizing. And then the most powerful exponent of this worldview is Ibram X. Kendi, who wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist. He says you have to either be you're either a racist or an anti-racist. If you're a good person, you're an anti-racist, and that's it, period, end of story. There's no neutrality, there's no such thing as not racist. Indeed, he wants to ban those words from the dictionary. And then she says, if those arguments are not effective, he's got another idea. Use the power of the federal government to make it so. To fix the original sin of racism, Americans should pass an anti-racist amendment to the US Constitution that enshrines two guiding anti-racist principles. Racial inequity is evidence of racist policy. So in other words, if let's say there aren't enough, let's say Black scientists, it means it's from racism. It's not from anything else. And he proposes to create a department of anti-racism that would have the power to investigate not just local governments, but private businesses, and would punish those who do not voluntarily change their racist policy and ideas. And she says, imagine how such a department would view a Jewish day school, which suggests that the Jews are God's chosen people, let alone one that teaches Zionism. Okay, I'm going to skip a little bit of this and get to the end. She says that just being Jewish, which is a separate identity, would prove that that's racist because we're not like everybody else. And she says this ideology is a dominant moral orthodoxy in our universities. So I'd be very curious to hear about people who work in universities, like UCR, for example. And has seeped out and spread to every facet of American life: publishing houses, tech arts, theater, newspapers, media, and increasingly corporations. And so this connects to, there was an effort by our legislator, Jose Medina, to pass an ethnic studies bill, which would require that all high school grads take one semester of ethnic studies. And simultaneously, there was a curriculum that was being developed, which Jewish groups across the state were very upset about, because it really did apparently look through the lens of Marxism and imperialism, and it looked at, everything through that lens. So of course, Israel ended up being a colonial imperialist project and to be condemned, and it supported BDS and all of those things. And so the governor actually has vetoed the bill until the curriculum is redone. So we'll see what happens. And then, as you may have heard, there was a USC student government student named Rose Rich, who stood accused of complicity in racism because following the Soviet lie, to be a Zionist is to be nothing less than a racist. Her fellow students waged a campaign to hound her out of her position. Impeach her Zionist ass, they insisted. And this is why the Democratic Socialists of America, the emerging power center of the Democratic Party in New York, sent a questionnaire to New York City Council candidates that included a pledge not to travel to Israel. It does not matter how progressive you are, how vegan or how gay, how much you want universal health care and pre-K, and to end the drug war. To believe in the justice of the existence of the Jewish state, to believe in Jewish particularism at all, is to make yourself an enemy of this movement. This isn't about Zionism or landlords or capitalism or AIPAC. We live in a world in which everyone is being told to side either with the racists or the anti-racists. Jews who refuse to erase what makes us different will increasingly be defined as racists, often with the help of other Jews desperate to be accepted by the cool kids. So that is the essence of her essay. And I'm curious to see what people think, both in terms of response to the article or things that you have seen in your own communities or in your own travels. She's, considered by the left to not be particularly progressive. And again, I'm not saying if I agree or disagree with her. I'm just simply presenting her point of view. So Ezra, what do you think?
I think it's wonderful. Osama bin Laden's niece one of his nieces was on television tonight being interviewed. She says, I'm getting an echo.
I know it's your
wanna
it's your
mute yourself?
microphone, unfortunately.
How do I do it?
It's his microphone. It's happened before, so. we have to-
Okay. She said she is getting more hate mail over her support for President Trump's foreign policy than she has ever gotten for being Osama bin Laden's niece.
Interesting.
Which says something about where the left is going now.
Amy, you're at the university. Amy Litt. I mean, you're in a science department, so it may be less prevalent there, but do you find that the academy is influenced by this sort of ideology?
I'm sorry, the academy is?
Influenced by this ideology.
So I don't encounter it much in the sciences, but it so happens that I'm on a committee to revise the general education curriculum, and it's very, very, very much a part of that conversation, very much. Not with respect to Israel, actually, but pretty much all the rest of it, yeah.
So like in respect to what?
Well, critical race theory and the idea of being either racist or anti-racist. And,
I mean, my feeling is that, anything that is doctrinaire from the right or the left is problematic. Because I mean, what I do feel is that nuance has gotten lost, in our society. It's very, you're on one side or the other, end of story. There's no mixing. There's no, oh, Thea, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
I had kind of been following her for a couple of years, and I noticed the same thing. And it's almost to the point where it's so it's just too far left and confusing that it almost makes me wonder that if it might make people who teeter at the polls to actually vote for the opposite party, because it's just too confusing at that point. It's like it just pushes the boundary of basic family values, and so people will say, well, I just can't handle that, that's just too broad. for me, and I'm just going to go conservative. And I have disagreed with it and agree with the commentator this evening a lot, because I'm not that old, and it's just too modern. It's just too far out there to try to integrate that type of logic into our common lifestyles, because if you really just keep it simple, it's not that deep of a problem. And it's true, it's kind of making people who are Jewish look like they're apart and racist for being apart.
Yeah, right. And also for having any sort of connect. I mean, just one second. I just want to read what Christine wrote. Critical race theory is the belief that systematic racism means that racism is infused in all our organizations, the police, schools, universities, the government. And obviously I agree with that, because that's what my sermon was about. However, that doesn't mean there's no nuance anywhere, right? Go ahead, Amy.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say, I think on some level I kind of agree with the idea of things being either racist or anti-racist, but I think the middle ground that might exist is not neutrality, but ignorance. Because I think fundamentally, for instance, when you look at policies and institutions, they are all either promoting equality or they are not. And if they're not promoting equality, then they are racist. So I think it's just a matter of people not being able to see and identify those. Right. And the same thing with personal actions. You know, if I have dinner, that's not anywhere on the racism spectrum, but in the way that I interact with people of color, etc., either I am helping them and promoting, or not necessarily helping them, but either I am treating them with equality and promoting equality, or I'm not.
Right. But, you know, the idea that this academy, I don't know what academy it is, took out work hard. Now, I understand that, you know, and I think I said this at Yom Kippur, that a lot of us who are white, you know, felt like, oh, you know, I got into a really good college. It must be because I'm smart, or I'm this, or I'm that, which may be true. That's where the nuance comes in. However, I had a step up above people who didn't have certain opportunities that I had, like money, whiteness, you know, privilege. So what bothers me about all of these, you know, really ardent, you know, theories is that it doesn't allow for, oh, well, maybe that person is smart. Well, you know, why take out work hard? I don't know. Maybe I'm a racist. Okay, wait a minute. Somebody put something in here. Christine says, we also celebrate diversity. It is a theory. It is a thought brought to its logical conclusion, which is polarized racist, anti-racist. I mean, it may be that we need this swing in the pendulum at this point, because we've been so unaware of this for such a long time. But I will say that I had a friend who was teaching law quite some time ago, probably 30 years ago. And he was already telling me that if you didn't have this fairly left perspective, you were ostracized in, you know, university. Yeah, Sarah, please.
As a guest here, I don't want to take up too much space,
You may do what you like.
but I did just want to name something that I am seeing in this conversation, which is that all of us who are speaking are coming at it through a certain lens, and that is a lens of our experience, which is whiteness, from as far as I know, because not everyone has their camera on, but at least being white presenting. So I just want to name that and ask us to consider and question what stakes we are holding in this conversation, and how we ourselves feel affected or unaffected by the conversation that we're having, and whether that has influence over where we're coming from.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. You know, kind of makes us defensive, right? Wait, I'm not a racist. Yeah, definitely. Are other thoughts here tonight? I'm happy if anybody would like a copy of the article, I'm happy to send it to you.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Harvey?
Yeah.
All right.
It's such a complicated issue. You know, it's like, it's not as simple because there's in groups and out groups, and then there's an in group within an in group. You know, it's like Jews are within another greater in group, and then there's out groups that we demonize. So everybody has a boogeyman that they don't like, and you really can't get away from that. And that's, you know, through learning and experience, as well as just personalities. You know, it just goes more than just a simple issue of racist, anti-racist. That's like almost a childish way of looking at it. It's just much more complicated than that. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, yeah, Ezra.
Rabbi,
I think you have to be.
Ezra, then Lori, yeah.
Rabbi, I would like a copy of the article also.
Oh, okay.
Is Carl still in the conversation or did he leave?
Yes, he's still here.
I think you have to be fairly blind.
I am here. I'm just multitasking.
Carl is here, and Thea is Filipina. Okay, go ahead, Ezra. Carl is African American.
I think you have to be fairly blind not to see what the progress we've made in this country over the past 50 to 60 years in race relations, and to encourage minorities of any kind to feel that they are being victims, and that explains their failure to succeed, is just so counterproductive. We talk about diversity. I would ask the people who were at this service tonight, who are professors at UCR who work there, how many professors are voting for Donald Trump? How much diversity of opinion is there?
Let's not do that, Ezra.
No, I mean, I think, okay, we're not going to get into a political discussion, but I do think that that is a valid point in the sense that I think there's probably way more people who are on one side of the political spectrum at university, or at least at certain universities. I don't think the University of Chicago is necessarily in that place, and there are others that are, you know, probably somewhere else, but I don't know. It's complicated. But it's something that obviously requires a lot more discussion. I just wanted to sort of get the discussion started. I'm happy, as I said, to share the article with anybody who wants it. Just put your name in the chat and I'll send it to you, and we will proceed. But I just wanted to, I was reading it and I thought, this is very provocative. I'll get to you in a sec, Sandy. She's a fairly, well-known, well-exposed writer. And then I also thought, well, I'm always giving the other point of view, so I'm going to give something that Ezra is going to be happy with for once. Okay, Ellie. Yes, go ahead, Sandy.
It really bothers me that I feel that I have to be shoved into one side or the other. I think everybody, maybe not, but a lot of people have some racist feelings in them, but they push them aside. They don't want to deal with that. And they prefer to be on the other side, but I'm pretty much not in the middle, but I don't like being categorized one way or another, that I have to be in this box or that box. Yeah. I'm not.
But I think the idea that Abraham Kendi was trying to get across is that, and which a lot of theorists are saying now, is it's not, and I tried to say this in my sermon, it's not a question of like, I feel a certain way about a Black person or a Latino or whatever. It's that there is a system that we are all part of that privileges white people over people of color. We may not even be conscious of it because it feels normal to us. And as I was trying to say in my sermon, it never occurred to me that if I were a Black person driving a car, that I might get stopped by the police just because I'm a Black person driving a car. I never would have occurred to me. And then I started hearing that many, many years ago, and how Black men were pulled out of their cars and strip searched or whatever, and that Black parents have to have this talk with their kids about make sure you keep your driver's license on the dashboard, because otherwise, if you reach for your registration somewhere, either in your glove compartment or your pocket, they're going to think you're reaching for a gun. I mean, those are things that never occurred to me. So it's just this whole system that we're part of that we're not necessarily conscious of. And I agree that that exists totally. I don't agree that it's just black and white either. That's what bothers me, is the kind of, as I said, the doctrinaire version. Okay, let me see. Some people are putting stuff in the chat. Okay. And Harvey said he knows some people who are Republicans at UCR. Okay, that answers that question. And the thing about being anti-racist, according to Christine, means that you recognize that you struggle with some racism. And Carl says he's here and he's multitasking with mom. I personally have not been subjected to any racist or otherwise that I'm aware of. I'm surely aware when someone is being racist, but I choose not to focus on that. I instill this in my children. That's great. Okay, and Carl says, driving while black never occurred to me as well, but I taught my children to be aware of that. Elliot says it can be helpful to think of racist or anti-racist actions and thoughts rather than people. And Marcia Gilman says, you are so right, Rabbi. If we haven't walked in those shoes, we don't know how it feels. It would be like a person who is not Jewish knowing how it feels to be discriminated against because you were Jewish. Jordan, did you raise your hand?
Yes. I just wanted to say, I can appreciate that there are people that think that we should consider the last 50 or 60 years of civil rights actions as an advance in the right direction. And they are, Ezra, they are advances in the right direction. However, if we ignore what happened post-Civil War, starting with the Reconstruction, and how there was the northern states let the southern states eventually go right back to the same kind of policies they had when they had slavery, and removed all of the young and wise black politicians who were winning elections in the 19th century, and destroyed the opportunities there and then. And between that and all of the institutional keeping people down, not letting them vote, not allowing people to own or to create businesses, built into the local laws all over the South, that has been accepted all over the United States as the norm, created an institutional ability for white people in power to keep black people down and still say we could make some advances against racism, vote an American president, but we're not going to put any money into the neighborhoods or the schools or the hospitals where the people who need to build their businesses and build their lives have an opportunity. And so we've put that into this past and current history of the United States, and we're not able to go past that to find an anti-racism and find an equality until we accept that we've been doing that since the Civil War. We have to admit that we have been doing that, and before.
Thank
the
you,
fact that we
Jordan.
took people over to the United States.
Okay,
as
Marcia
slaves.
Gilman says,
Okay.
right, Jordan. Okay, I'm gonna.
All right, that's enough for me. Bye.
No, I'm just gonna. Andrea, did you want to say something?
I think
You're getting a clap, Jordan.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different ideas going on or going around about anti-racism in this conversation. And I similarly wanted to sort of just highlight that. And I don't know, there's no necessarily right view. There's lots of different books on racism, and there's lots of different conceptions of how you define it. And, you know, how to be an anti-racist is the most popular and the most read right now, which some of us have been talking about the definitions from there, and some of us have been talking about definitions that don't quite match what's in there. So I just wanted to name that, but I'm not like an expert in this, and that I really wanted to highlight the idea of integration, and the idea that I think it's more important for us to approach these conversations in curiosity and you know, to try to see the good in people. And I think that's what I get out of How to Be an Anti-Racist, is that it's not that people are racist or anti-racist, it's that policies are racist or anti-racist. And it's not that people are good or bad, it's that there are these policies that have been developed over time in self-interest with knowledge and motivation that are developed and implemented in order to benefit some people. And I think that that's something to keep in mind. While I sort of disagree with the article, and Rabbi, you know where I stand on this probably, but I think it's also important to bring up that point of view, because I know people, also myself, who when we went to HUC hid their political identity in a lot of ways.
Thank you. So I mean, I'm going to just say one more thing, and then we're going to close this now, but we can always have another discussion about, we can even all read a book together and talk about it at some point. But I think, you know, in terms of her particular angle, it's always sort of focused more on Jews and on anti-Semitism. And I do think that, you know, as we've discussed before, there is anti-Semitism on the left and on the right. The one on the right tends to be a little more violent. The one on the left tends to sort of say, you know, you're out of, you know, you're sort of excommunicated, whereas on the right it tends to be more like the Jews will not, you know, replace us kind of expressions. So, but I think it's worth, you know, examining that, you know, I mean, I don't think Zionism is necessarily a, you know, colonial enterprise. I understand where that's coming from, but it's a much more complicated story. And that's the problem, is that all the complications are forgotten. And I would just wish people would know a little more of the history and a little more, you know, to kind of not just make a blanket statement about it. But that's why, you know, it's good to have discussions and to hear different points of view and to see, you know. So, I mean, I would love to, at some point, do a discussion about one of these books, you know, either How to Be an Anti-Racist or White, what is it called? White, not privilege.
Fragility.
Fragility, thank you, White Fragility. She's a little annoying, you know, Angela, or what's her name, Robin DiAngelo. She's a little annoying because, first of all, it sounds like you're being lectured at for like 200 pages. But on top of that, it's like, wow, just hits you over the head. I think she has her own anxiety that she's projecting on other people. But, you know, but I understand the idea that we're all like, kind of like, not me. I'm not one of those people. So anyhow, okay. Well, thank you for all these wonderful, you know, contributions. It's something that we need to continue to talk about. Any announcements from anybody? Anybody have anything they want to share? I do want to mention again that November, the first weekend in November, Friday, we are going to have a Shabbat service. So bring your animals with you. Your dogs, your parrots, your cats, your fish, whatever. We are also talking about trying to do a parking lot service where we can all come together and actually be together, although distanced by cars. And so we're talking about that. It's not easy to pull it all together, but it is in discussion. So hopefully sometime in November, we will do that as well. And we have a series of teachings coming up from Doug Moss, who's going to be teaching about Jewish languages. I've sent out stuff. Susan sent out stuff. It's been in the weekly email. So hopefully you'll be interested in coming to some of those things. So, and then, as I said, next week, Sarah is going to be talking to us about veganism and Judaism, and the following, not the following Sunday, but the Sunday, November 1st. Is that what it is? No, November. It is November 1st, right?
It's November 1st, which is also World Vegan Day, so it worked out beautifully.
Oh, hey, we're going to have a further discussion about veganism, how it helps save our planet, how we might incorporate it a little bit more into what we do at the temple when we're ever back there. So Sarah and David Crone will be speaking. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Hopefully you can attend some of that. Okay, we are going to continue. Oh, by the way, before we go on, Christine Lietman did a wonderful job behind the scenes sharing the screen. So we really appreciate that because it's a lot of things to take care of all at once. And we continue with the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון. וכוס עמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגוד עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו. Yes. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Take a moment now to think of those in need, not in need of healing anymore, unfortunately, but people that are no longer with us. May their memories be a blessing. And we're observing Shiva the first 7 days of mourning for Ozell Walton, uncle of Carl Walton, and Sean Donnelly, friend of Stephen Tick. Is anyone in Shiva Shloshim or the first year of mourning who would like to mention a name or share it in the chat? Susan Jones.
Werner Kopel.
Arnie Geller. Adele Lucas. Roz Newman, Mardell Taylor.
Evelyn Nathanson.
My friend Becky Long.
And we're observing yard site.
Barbara Fenster.
Okay. We're observing yard sites this Shabbat for Joan Fisher, Phil Burns, Sadie Lipkin, Florence Rackman, Edith Rudman, Helen House, Julius Brandler, Max Lipkin, Gertrude Bauman, Alois Kander, Eileen Klieger, Joe Wilson, Nancy Grace Wilson, Leonard Silverglate, Alan Goldstein, Gertrude Weiss, Shirley Solomon, Mary Greenhouse, Naomi Dunlap, Jerome Held, Edward Burke, Rosalie Zubkin, Ella Briskin, Ralph Cannell, Norvin Setterholm, Michael T. Koenig, Samuel Essig, Thelma Essig, Rose Schwartz, Marvin Greenberg, Loretta Kalish, Sophie Plotkin. And if you'd like to add names, please do so either in the chat or unmuting yourselves. First year is also Kayla Diaz, Reverend Jane Carl, Elaine Marcus, Dr. Bob Levy, Julia Eliason, and Shiva. Yeah, we already mentioned Ozell Walton. Okay. Any yard sites? And we also think of those who perished in the Holocaust, who have no one to say the mourner's Kaddish for them. And if you'd like to unmute, please do so, and we join together in the mourner's Kaddish. Yikdal, Yikdash, Shemei Rabbah. Yalmad, Yikra,
Yamlich Matke.
Hayachon,
Yom Echad.
Hayet
Hayedechal.
Beit
Beit
Israel.
Israel.
Ba'adalah,
Bisman Karim.
Amen.
Yeru. Amen.
Hey,
Yeshmei Rabbah Uvra. Lam Oleh Maya.
Barach,
Barak
Bach, Ar,
Yaman Naseh
Yitadar,
B'Israel. Shmei Dekusha.
Bishah Berehu
Elamin,
Yaminko
Hatab,
Shata. Tushbachata. Lechemata.
Amidan,
Shlama Baba Min Shlamaya.
Shama Rabba Min Shemaya. Hayim Aleinu V'Yal Kol Yisrael.
Israel.
Amen.
Say
Say
Shalom.
Shalom B'Rama.
Say Shalom.
Aleinu V'Yal Kol Yisrael. Yeru. Amen. May their memories be a
Send peace
blessing.
to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say.
Amen.
Amen.
The closing song is Adon Olam.
Adon olam Hashem alach b'terem kol yetzir nivra le'et nasa b'chefzo kol azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu hove ve'hu yirye b'tifhara ve'hu echad ve'en sheni שילה להכבירה, ולי ראשית ולי תכלית, ולא העוז והבישרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבל לי בצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. ויאנו אף תדרוכי בעת דישן והעירה, ועם רוחי וביאתי אדוני לי ולא ירא.
Thank you for your beautiful music tonight, Elliot. And will you lead us in the Motzi?
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together, to a joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom to everybody. People want to hang out a little bit, we can hang out together, or
Thank you, Elliot. That was gorgeous.
Thank you very much.
got a lot of compliments in the chat, Elliot.
Well, that's very sweet. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Great job.
Now you can have dinner.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Rabbi.